Coronation Street's Daniel Osborne is attacked by thugs in a dramatic first-look clip from next week's episodes. Daniel's torment moves from online to the real world, as he becomes a target thanks to Jodie Ramsey's vicious posts under the alias of Truth Teller. In next week's episodes, Daniel looks forward to an enjoyable time taking his son Bertie for a day out alongside the youngster's grandfather Ken Barlow. The trip looks set to be briefly delayed when Bertie and Ken both insist on taking last-minute toilet trips at number 1, leaving Daniel outside to wait for them. All of a sudden, Daniel is attacked by a pair of lads who were slyly watching him earlier on. The unwelcome visitors throw paint at Daniel and film his reaction. It seems they've got the controversial content they were hoping for when Daniel lashes out in response, which could make his reputation online even worse. Hit play below to see the scene in full. Earlier this week, Corey officially confirmed that Jodie is responsible for the malicious Truth Teller posts which are targeting Daniel. The internet harassment has unfairly painted Daniel as complicit in Megan Walsh's grooming of local teen Will Driscoll. Jodie seems to be stirring up trouble so that Daniel is reliant on her friendship, as she doesn't have anywhere to stay. Is it only a matter of time before Daniel realizes that she has betrayed him? Jodie's smear campaign against Daniel has spiraled out of control, explains our Corey source. Now it's not just her anonymous account dragging his name through the mud, as people are attacking him on the street based on lies over Megan. It's beyond cruel. Upcoming scenes do see Jodie start to regret her ruthless tactics, especially when she finds out that Daniel's troubles are starting to affect Bertie. By this point, though, various other trolls have already joined in with her attacks, making the situation even more volatile. Coronation Street reveals Daniel's new horror after Jodie's deception. The cobbles of Coronation Street are no strangers to heartbreak, betrayal, and shocking twists, but the latest storyline surrounding Daniel Osborne takes emotional turmoil to a whole new level. What begins as a seemingly harmless connection with the enigmatic Jodie quickly spirals into a devastating chain of events that leaves Daniel facing one of the darkest chapters of his life yet. Jodie arrives in Weatherfield with an air of mystery that immediately catches attention. Charming, intelligent, and seemingly vulnerable, she presents herself as someone looking for a fresh start. For Daniel, still carrying emotional scars from past relationships and personal loss, she feels like a chance at stability, a rare moment of calm in an otherwise turbulent life. Their bond develops quickly, built on late-night conversations, shared grief, and a mutual understanding of loneliness. But beneath Jodie's carefully constructed exterior lies something far more calculated. At first, the signs are subtle. Small inconsistencies in her stories. Phone calls she refuses to explain. Sudden disappearances followed by carefully rehearsed excuses. Daniel, wanting to believe in the possibility of happiness, brushes off the doubts. Those closest to him, however, begin to notice cracks in Jodie's facade. Sarah voices her suspicions. Adam, ever the pragmatist, warns Daniel not to ignore the red flags. But love, or what Daniel believes to be love, can be blinding. The deception truly begins to unravel when Daniel stumbles upon something he was never meant to see, a hidden stash of documents linking Jodie to an identity that doesn't exist in Weatherfield's narrative. The name she gave him isn't real. Her story about starting over is a fabrication. Even her emotional confessions, those moments that made Daniel feel seen, are revealed to be carefully scripted performances. The shock hits Daniel like a physical blow. For a man who has spent so much of his life trying to build something meaningful out of chaos, the realization that he has been manipulated cuts deeper than anything before. It isn't just betrayal, it's psychological warfare. As Daniel digs deeper, the truth becomes even more disturbing. Jodie hasn't just been deceiving him emotionally, she has been observing him, learning his routines, his vulnerabilities, and even his relationships with others on the street. Her presence in Weatherfield is not random. It is intentional. And Daniel is not her first target. What begins as heartbreak quickly transforms into fear. The second act of Daniel's horror unfolds when he discovers that Jodie's deception is connected to a larger scheme involving identity fraud and emotional exploitation. She has been using relationships to gain access to personal information, finances, and trust networks within different communities. Daniel realizes that everything from their first meeting was orchestrated. The revelation forces him into isolation. He becomes withdrawn, unable to trust his own judgment. Even familiar faces on the street feel distant. Every conversation feels like a potential manipulation. The psychological toll is immense, as Daniel begins questioning not only Jodie's actions but his own perception of reality. Isolated and emotionally fractured, Daniel tries to confront Jodie, but she is already several steps ahead. When he finally confronts her, expecting denial or desperation, he instead meets calm detachment. Jodie does not panic. She does not plead. Instead, she subtly reframes the narrative, attempting to make Daniel doubt himself, suggesting that his suspicions are exaggerated or misunderstood. It is a chilling moment, one that reveals the true depth of her manipulation. This is not a woman caught in a lie. This is someone who has practiced deception as an art form. The confrontation escalates when Daniel uncovers evidence linking Jodie to other victims. Messages, fake identities, carefully curated social profiles designed to build trust before exploitation. The scale of her deception becomes undeniable. Daniel is not just dealing with betrayal, he is standing at the center of a calculated emotional operation. But the horror does not stop there. As Daniel tries to alert others in Weatherfield, he begins to realize that Jodie has already planted seeds of doubt about him. Her manipulation extends beyond their relationship. She has subtly suggested to others that Daniel is unstable, overly emotional, and prone to misinterpretation. Suddenly, Daniel finds himself not only betrayed but discredited. The man who once sought truth is now trapped in a web of confusion, where every attempt to expose deception only deepens his isolation. In classic Coronation Street fashion, the tension escalates through intimate, character-driven moments rather than overt spectacle. Daniel's breakdown is quiet but devastating. He struggles to maintain his job, his relationships, and even his sense of identity. The street that once felt like home begins to feel like a stage where he is no longer sure of his role. Meanwhile, Jodie continues her presence with unsettling calmness. She integrates herself further into the community, maintaining her charm while carefully avoiding direct confrontation. Her ability to adapt makes her even more dangerous. She is always one step ahead, always prepared. The psychological battle reaches its peak when Daniel uncovers the final layer of Jodie's deception. She has been using Weatherfield as part of a broader pattern of manipulation across multiple towns. Daniel's relationship was never unique. It was part of a cycle. This realization is what finally pushes him toward breaking point. But within that breaking point lies a turning moment. Instead of collapsing entirely, Daniel begins to rebuild himself. With support from a few trusted allies who refuse to abandon him, he slowly starts piecing together the truth in a structured way. He documents everything. He gathers evidence. He reclaims control over the narrative that Jodie tried to distort. The story shifts from pure victimhood to resilience. Daniel's horror does not disappear overnight, but it transforms. The emotional damage remains, but so does a growing determination to ensure that Jodie's pattern of deception does not continue unchecked. His journey becomes one of reclaiming agency in the aftermath of psychological manipulation. As for Jodie, her fate remains uncertain, hovering between exposure and escape. In true soap fashion, her presence leaves lingering questions. How many others have been affected? Will she return under another identity? Or has Weatherfield finally become the place where her carefully constructed world begins to collapse? What makes this storyline so gripping is not just the deception itself, but its emotional realism. Daniel's horror is not rooted in physical danger, but in the collapse of trust, identity, and emotional security. It reflects a modern kind of villainy, subtle, psychological, and deeply invasive. Coronation Street once again proves that its most powerful stories are not always the loudest ones. Sometimes, the most terrifying moments are the quiet ones, the realization that everything you believed in was carefully built on a lie. And for Daniel Osborne, that realization changes everything. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Coronation Street Scoop News Update.